welcome to the Simsbury Board of Selectmen meeting for April 15th. I would like to call the meeting to order and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pick your flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So tonight, we're going to start. We have a public hearing on the proposed amendments to the Town of Simsbury Retirement Income Plan. We raised that and scheduled this at our last meeting. The attachments are in the documentation. It's on two changes to the plan. One is to allow for an in-service distribution to some unaffiliated classifications, and to also increase the pension percentage for new town staff who are eligible for this pension plan. So do we have a list of people that signed up to speak? We'll start with the list and then...
It's the same person on both.
Pardon me?
Just one person, Joan.
Okay. Oh, okay. So we'll just start with the person who signed up, and then we'll call other people up as needed. The first person that has signed up is Joan. Because it's a public hearing, we have 3 minutes for everyone to speak, and we will set a timer for you. So just so you know, I could find the timer.
Joan Cole, 26 Whitcomb Drive. It's come to the attention of Town Manager Mark Nelson that Chief Bolger would like to remain as Simsbury's chief past his due date of retirement. As a result of the chief's request, the present pension plan was reviewed and found not to reflect the present longevity of individuals. When employees are hired, they receive all the plans of employment, including the pension plan. The solution to the issue is not to change the plan for all new. Is to change the plan for all new employees, extending the years of service and age requirements in the pension plan. The present plan was instituted when Chief Bolger entered the police department, and he should not be incentivized to remain past the retirement requirement. The definition of retirement is withdrawal from one's position, end quote. Withdrawal of one's position is leaving the employment and then collect the pension. The scenario of collecting an in-service distribution while working should not be considered. Chief Bolger is remaining on the job, therefore he is not retiring. He is just extending his employment past years of service and should not be incentivized. Chief Bolger should not be allowed to game the system. Are there any other towns that allow employees to continue service and collect from the pension with an in-service distribution? As a result of this request and the failure to address longevity of employees in the present pension plan, it should be reviewed and changed to reflect the deficiencies in the pension plan and should be changed for all new employees. In a small town with few employees in this category, there is very little room for advancement. Retirement of unaffiliated employees is an opportunity for others to receive promotions that is valuable in maintaining staff. Retirement gives the person an opportunity to either accept retirement or move to other opportunities that they might like to pursue. This gives the staff an opportunity to grow with the expectation that there will be opportunities from within. The Simsbury Police Department has a deputy chief, 3 lieutenants, sergeants, and officers in the chain of command. Every department should have a succession plan for retirement of unaffiliated employees. For example, the police department, the deputy chief could assume the role of chief through retirement, others could advance through promotion. If Chief Bolger retires, the deputy chief is ready to assume the responsibility with years of experience in various police departments. In a small town with little advancement, staff should be encouraged to retire for others to advance. This is also a recruiting tool as people looking for employment realize the opportunities for growth in the future. The reduction of the pension multiplier from 2.5% to 2% for new employees is a benefit to the taxpayer. The defined contribution plan should be the savings plan for future employees as also a benefit to the taxpayer. The present retirement plan should not be tweaked to accommodate a failure of the present plan to reflect requests, but rewritten to reflect present-day actuarial figures on longevity for new employees. All of my comments will be posted on Simsbury PAC and Twitter Joe Cole. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joan. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak? Travis?
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Travis Schweizer. I'm not only a private citizen here in Simsbury, but I'm also the chairman of the police commission. So, as a private citizen, first off, this initiative is important to me because I feel like if we don't pass this measure, we're in jeopardy of losing critical engineers, critical experienced planners, and the like. As a chairman of the police commission, I'm extremely concerned about this issue, and I think it should pass, and I'm in favor of that, because when we look statewide at trends, the trend is we are losing officers at an alarming rate. And right now that percentage across the state is about 15% that the force is down. Economically, the way the retirement plan for both unionized and unionized members does not make sense. Meaning, in the last 3 years, we've had 3 officers that have hit their 25-year mark, and they've retired, and then what do? They go on to work in another police force or leave the workforce altogether when they still have plenty of time to work. And so what does that equate to? An experienced training. So that's 3 officers in the last 3 years, and right now we have 1 lieutenant who's in the window, who's already hit his 25-year mark, and we have 2 more that are going to hit the 25-year mark this year. So that means we're in jeopardy of losing 3 more officers in the near term, and they are not only they're basically incentivized to leave the force. Economically, it doesn't make sense for them to stay. Our force right now is at 42. The authorized end strength is 42. We have 40 officers, but again, we're in jeopardy of losing a handful. So let's talk about our police force. Over the last few years, specifically with Chief Bolter and the deputy in charge here, we're nationally accredited. We've had 0 or very few complaints of the police interaction with the community. Our equipment seems to be improving, our training is improving, and our relationship with the town has been skyrocketing into positive. And the reason why I can say that is, number one, our school program, I've witnessed firsthand, is bar none outstanding. I mean, the impact on the children is phenomenal. And secondly, yes, compared to other towns, Simsbury police make more traffic stops. This actually is proper police community engagement. They're getting a positive gauge on the town, and what are they doing? In only a handful of cases are they issuing tickets. It's about engaging the town and understanding the town and developing good relationships. So now let's get to the specifics.
You have 10 seconds.
If Chief goes, we basically have the administrative burden, and we have to fill his spot with someone else, and that's detrimental to the force. If he stays, it's at little to no cost that he stays. Last point, the police commission is squarely behind this move in favor of the initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else here who wants to speak on the public hearing? Okay, I do want to admit that I made an error and I didn't do the motion to open the public hearing. So I need to do that officially and to move backward. I missed that.
Well, the record is the record, so I would say you need to make a motion to close the meeting at this point. It's
Okay.
an administration error.
So
It's
I'll
okay.
take the hit on that one. So do we have anyone else here to speak for the public hearing?
Do we have ability to ask questions or just make statements?
Just a 3-minute statement to the Board of Selectmen and the public. Okay.
Where is the forum to ask questions? Was that at the function meeting?
They're really, well, you're asking me questions now. They're really, you could have reached out. You could have reached out over the last couple weeks when we brought it up at our meeting that we were bringing the public hearing here.
Chair, if I could offer, if the public has a question that they would like addressed, the board will have an opportunity in its discussion, in its public discussion, possibly to address that question. But it wouldn't be a back and forth during the public hearing.
Yeah, and we don't know what the question is, so you can come up and ask the question as part of the public hearing if that's what you'd like to do.
Okay.
Before I close it, and give your name and address. Thanks, Kevin.
Sorry to ask the question about asking questions.
Well, I already messed up, so.
Really the nerve. Roger Masquerade, Homestead Road. I think somebody addressed this maybe tangentially. what other towns actually have in-service distributions. And if it's a real small number, how do they handle the concern about people retiring? And then the whole question of a drop plan, is that an option that people have considered rather than an in-service distribution? That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else here for a comment or a question for the public audience? Okay, given that there's no more public comment and it doesn't seem like we need to extend the public hearing, I'm gonna ask for a motion to close the public hearing on the proposed amendments to the Town of Simsbury Retirement Income Plan.
I move to close the hearing.
Any further discussion?
Wait, one
Just a
second.
moment, Chair.
Because on our notice, we said Zoom, so I just want to be sure no one's on Zoom.
Nobody's on Zoom.
Thanks, thank you. Okay, so any discussion? All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing was open and closed. Next up on the agenda, we have, so it's April, and every April we recognize autism awareness by issuing a proclamation. Tonight, we have Will Bronlick here to give us, to say a few words, and then we'll read the proclamation. Will, you know you have probably about 5 minutes. Oh, sir.
Public audience.
Sorry. I'm messing up here. I think it's public audience, thank you. Public audience comes after the public hearing. Thank you to my peers up here. Joan's here for public audience. Maybe I should just go back home and start again. Now, we have 5 minutes for speaking at public audience.
I know the rules of engagement.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm starting now.
Board of Selectmen, Adult Code 26 Richmond Drive, all budgets presented have increased over the years, while many of the items do not directly service the cost of the taxpayers. Money should be spent to enhance the Memorial Park with the demolition of the pool and adding a splash pad for the town for children to enjoy. There are many studies in the past that could be used as reference to improvements to Memorial Park. An RFP to establish the cost of the splash pad would be more efficient and cost-effective mechanism to establish the costs. The demolition of Memorial Pool has been discussed since 2010 and should not be tabled another year. Other activities at the park should be evaluated for activity to support the use. Spending millions of dollars to support outside agencies that do not directly service the town should be eliminated. Simsbury should not be a social service enhancement fund for outside agencies without direct support to the town. The Simsbury Volunteer Ambulance Organization should be self-sufficient, not asking taxpayers to pay for what appears to be mismanagement. AMR is self-sufficient as an ambulance service with no taxpayer support. The Simsbury Performing Arts is a private organization, does not directly enhance the taxpayers, but brings people from other areas to enjoy a product that is supported by Simsbury taxpayers. All legacy expenditures associated with maintenance of the building should be attached to the expenditures. This will not be a one-time expenditure. We have not heard any acknowledgement that the SPAC has increased the price of tickets to fund their present projects. The town's contract with SBC should be re-evaluated and making all costs associated with the venues paid fully by the SPAC. Permanent buildings in a floodplain will have unintended consequences with flooding that has not been addressed. A concert venue is an expensive undertaking and should be solely supported by the Simsbury Performing Arts. A ticket booth was erected at the site several years ago that is now used for several hours prior to concerts. This building is vacant with no plans for its use during the remainder of the months. All legacies expenditures associated with maintenance should be attached to all buildings and capital expenditures. This will not be a one-time expenditure. Main Street Partnership has been an asset to economic development by directly supporting Simsbury businesses and should have an expanded role with strict guidelines. Over the years, Main Street Partnership has written many grants to bring money into the business community. The Main Street Partnership has taken over the role of the Economic Development Commission, which should be eliminated. Retention of businesses is economic development. Both the Board of Education and Board of Selectmen cannot continue to increase taxes. Increased taxes affect all residents, businesses in Simsbury. All renters will have their rents increased with their leases up, causing the market for renters in Simsbury to be non-competitive. This could lead to growth in the market, empty units with a cascading effect. Higher taxes are a detriment to economic development, the driver behind the tax base. After reviewing the incident logs in the police department, it appears that many of the calls are repeaters for service, a first line for contact. The police can only refer people to services that appear to be lacking in service. Social services is difficult to contact, and other agencies appear to be unresponsive. There is a mental health crisis that cannot support the increased need for immediate and long-term services. Gambling addiction has led to financial strain on families and businesses. Alzheimer's patients living in their home require special needs with services lacking. Without these support services, there is an increase in crime, domestic disputes, increase of narcotics that are readily available. These calls for service to the police department eventually lead to an arrest that only exacerbates the root causes with a lack of treatment. It is time for the Board of Selectmen to convene a Charter Revision Commission to review the need for placing many of the time-consuming boards and commissions in the Charter. Services have changed over the years, and the Charter should reflect these changes. I would like to report that the babysitting service established by Chief Bolter is not efficient or effective. This mechanism for access to information is placing an undue burden on Lieutenant Chase, who is in charge of the patrol dispatch and other duties associated with the position. Babysitting is not one of the duties and should be reviewed by the union for compliance with workplace duties assigned to Lieutenant Chase. All of my comments will be posted on Simsbury Pat and Twitter at Joan Coe. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Joan.
Within the fire.
I was gonna say, you did a very nice job. Okay. Is there anyone else here for public audience? Okay, now, Beth, right?
Yes.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, every April we recognize autism, and this year we have Will Bronlick here to say a few words. If you'd like to come up, Will, we won't make you go back down, and then we'll read the proclamation and talk about lighting, blue. And thanks for coming.
Of course. No pressure.
No.
Hello, everybody. My name is Will Bronlick. Some of you might know me as the guy who does the movie reviews for Simsbury Community Media. And while that is a very fun job, I want to talk about the stuff I do outside of making those reviews. I work as a paraeducator in the Simsbury School District, and I can safely say that from all the jobs I've had since graduating from college in the middle of the pandemic, that is hands down the best job I've ever had, and that I can safely say that I think that Simsbury School District has quite possibly the best special education support system in the entire state of Connecticut. I am 100% serious when I say that. And this is coming from experience from when I was a student here at Simsbury for almost 15 years, which is hard to believe. But the knowledge that I got from my teachers there, they helped me get my associates and my bachelor's, and now I am happy to pass on that knowledge to the students I work with right now. I've worked with students who are deaf and hard of hearing, and now I work with students who are on the autism spectrum. And like I said, it is without doubt the best job I could ever ask for. And after being a para for almost 2 years, I have made a pretty big decision that I'm going to go back to school to get my teaching license and my master's coming this fall. So yeah, I'm very thankful for the opportunity for you to allow me to speak. I think this is a very special month for students of the autism spectrum, and that everybody should be recognized. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Will.
Quite an impressive
Thanks, Will.
resume.
Nice job.
So we have a proclamation. I'm going to ask everybody on the board to read it, and then if people want to add some comments, I've mentioned we do responsive reading. Kevin, do you want to start, and then we'll work down this way?
Sure. I will pull it up, and then I can read it. There we go. So I'll start with the first paragraph, and I'll read the heading.
Yeah,
Um,
yep.
proclamation recognizing April 2024 as Autism Awareness Month in Simsbury. Whereas autism is a neurological condition affecting millions of people in the United States that demands a national response and an increase in knowledge of the programs that have been and are being developed to support persons with autism and their families.
Whereas autism can affect anyone regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, or socioeconomic background.
Whereas symptoms and characteristics of autism may present themselves in a variety of combinations and can result in significant lifelong impairment of an individual's ability to learn, develop healthy interactive behaviors, and understand verbal as well as nonverbal communications.
Whereas doctors, therapists, and educators continue to help persons with autism overcome or adjust to its challenges and provide early, accurate diagnosis and the resulting appropriate education, intervention, and therapy that are vital to future growth and development.
Whereas ensuring that persons with autism have lifelong access to care and services needed to pursue the full measure of personal happiness and achieve their greatest potential.
Whereas the town of Simsbury is honored to take part in the annual observance of Autism Awareness Month and World Autism Awareness Day in the hope that it will lead to a better understanding of the disorder.
Whereas, I'm going to change it from first selectman to the full board of selectmen, do hereby proclaim April 2024 as Autism Awareness Month in Simsbury and call upon all of us to learn more about autism, to improve early diagnosis, learn firsthand the experiences of persons with autism, and to build more welcoming and inclusive communities for persons with autism. In witness thereof, we're all going to be signing this document. Before I make, I'll read the motions, and then if there's one to add some discussion. I'll ask for a motion to effective April 15, 2024, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to issue a proclamation in support of Autism Awareness Month, and further to light Eno Memorial Hall blue for the remainder of the month of April 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Do you like?
I would just like to say, from a personal standpoint, that this means a lot to me. It's something that I have been involved with since the beginning of when we proclaimed this. I'd like to recognize we have some young adults here who are on the autism spectrum, who have been through Simsbury Public Schools and are now contributing members of our community. They're very active in our community. We see them often. They're not only consumers in our community, but they're employed in our community. And, you know, it's great to see adults in this community supported, not only by our families, but by our Simsbury community. And we are very, very, very lucky, not only to have individuals with autism in our community, but we are lucky that our community supports them so wholeheartedly as well. And I cannot thank you enough from the bottom of my heart.
Anybody else? On that, let's all vote all in favor of passing the motions that we just did. Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so look for Eno to be blue, hoping tomorrow. I don't know what the timing is for that. Next is the first selectmen's report. So a couple things I just wanted to mention today is our Hometown Heroes application is now up and running for the month of April. So if you know somebody that's a hometown hero, the information is out there. You can submit it and send it in to us. The board, the Hometown Hero Committee will be meeting on May 6th to review the applications. Thanks, Will. I want to thank the public for all their emails on the budget and other business, for showing that you care about what we're doing and you know, your interest in how we're spending taxpayer dollars. I'm going to skip something here because Diana will bring it up, but I do want to let everyone know that we have, we'll be working on upcoming MOUs, contracts, and agreements with Simsbury Main Street Partnership, with the Performing Arts Center, and with the Simsbury Volunteer Ambulance Association, as we mentioned during the budget, given the financial commitment that we're making to those programs. This is hot off the press, and it's tentative based on the budget being passed tomorrow night, but the referendum on the budget is tentatively scheduled for April 10th. Tom Fitzgerald said I could say that, so thanks, Tom.
May 10th?
Oh, May 10th, what'd I say, April? Oh my gosh. May 10th, because April 10th was last week, I think, or the week before. Couple things I wanted to bring up that, we have a agenda item today on the memorial pool and the renovations for the splash pad. At the Board of Finance meeting, there was a little bit of confusion on what was included in the funding, and so I wanted to have it on the agenda tonight so that we could discuss it as a board, because this is the only way we get to discuss things is in public for the 6 of us. And then those of you who have applied for the Fair Rent Commission, we're almost done doing our interviews. We have a few more tomorrow. We've gotten a great response. We thank everyone, and we'll be reaching out soon to let you know when that starts up. With that, I am done with my first Selectmen's report, I hope. I'm going to turn it over to our town manager for the town manager's report.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. So a lot going on. I'll go through this as quickly as I can, but some really exciting news. First of all, from the police department, we had a public hearing just moments ago at which some comments were made. I'm happy to announce and inform the board that the department has hired Mario Marana as the town's newest police officer after approval from the Police Commission. Thank you very much at their regular meeting, which was held back on April 8th. Mario joins the department after a 17-year career in the banking industry, and he will begin employment with the town on April 17th. He has a 6-month police academy that'll start later this month, so if you get a chance, please join us in welcoming Mario to Simsbury and to the fine police department here. Just a quick note from my office, the town manager's office, we issued a request for proposals to engage or re-engage, in this case, our Labor, Employment, and Pension Council. This was a competitive bid that went out, goes out every few years as we look at best value and experience for that important role. The selection panel, which included Mr. Eric Gomes, our HR coordinator, Selectman Heather Getz was on that panel, and myself met last week and has selected the law firm of Ford Harrison and attorney Mike Harrington to continue in the role that they've held for a number of years. And that continuity, I think, is going to be good service to the town. From the town clerk, we've got some great news too. The Connecticut Town Clerks Association will hold they actually hold conferences twice a year, one in April and the other one in September. And that's attended by all town clerks, almost all of them around the state, and their assistants go to these. I've actually gone to one or two myself as a guest. These conferences provide critical training and educational sessions, but more importantly, I think updates on many of the issues that are coming to municipalities via state government and best practices around the state. So our office will be attending that on April 18th this week, and as a result, the town clerk's office will be closed to allow staff to attend this valuable conference. So April 18th, town clerk's office will be closed. Brief announcements, a couple of them from the library and our team over there. Really excited to share that our teen services librarian, Mary Richardson, has been recognized by the Connecticut Library Association as this year's winner of the Outstanding Young Adult Award for the work she's done creating a welcoming and safe space for teens at the Simsbury Public Library. So our congratulations go out to Mary Richardson. I think many of the board were on the email announcement earlier and have extended congratulations already. Mary will be recognized at an awards ceremony during the Connecticut Library Association annual conference, which is going to be the end of this month. Also from the library, they're holding a volunteer expo. This is really big. Please mark your calendars for Saturday, April 27th from 10 a.m. to 12. If you're interested in volunteer opportunities here in Simsbury, there are going to be over 20 local organizations that are seeking volunteers from our community that will be represented at the expo. Again, that's at the library on Saturday, April 27th from 10 a.m. until 12 p.m. And finally, again at the library, they're partnering with the sustainability community for the Sustainability Fair The Sustainability Fair is going to be held this year, Saturday, May 4th, at the library also from 10 to 2 in this case. There's many organizations that will be taking part that day as well. Kids can plant seeds to take home, and the fair is also going to feature a repair cafe. So those attending may bring an item that they'd like to have repaired rather than discarding it, which I think is very cool. Jumping over to our Social Services Department, invite the public and others to join Simsbury Youth Service Bureau and the School Resource Officer Brittle in welcoming Scott Driscoll to Simsbury on Monday, April 22nd at 6:30 p.m. at Simsbury High School in the amphitheater to discuss SMART, that's S-M-A-R-T, which stands for Social Media and Responsible Technology. This is going to be all about internet safety concepts, and Scott will be discussing current apps that the students are using, cyberbullying, sexting, texting, online gaming, and much more. Most importantly, he'll be talking about how to keep our kids safe online, and you can contact our community social worker, Rachel Loveland, if you have any questions. Her email is on our website, and again, the date for that is April 22nd at 6:30 p.m. at Simsbury High School. Culture, Parks, and Recreation had a quick announcement, which I think some of you may have already heard, but join your friends and neighbors as we aim to clean up Simsbury's neighborhoods, parks, and trails. The event will take place Saturday, April 20th. Stop by Town Hall parking lot at 8:30 a.m. for gloves and trash bags before heading out to clean up. Trash bags will be collected and can be dumped at the dumpster, which will be donated by Paynes and located at Town Hall. They'll be arriving with the dumpster by 11:30 a.m. Pre-registration for Community Cleanup Day isn't required, but it's helpful. Check the Parks and Rec website and for more information. And finally, just one more quick announcement from Public Works. We have our regional household hazardous waste collection. That's important to a lot of us. It's going to be held at Farmington High School on this Saturday from 8 to 1. And this is, I think, as you all know, free for Simsbury residents. Please remember to bring a form of ID. And if you have any questions about what's accepted, you can check the Public Works page on the town website. That's all I had. Thanks so much for listening.
Okay. The next step is going through the Board of Selectmen liaison and committee reports. Kevin, you want to start?
I'll add on to what the town manager said about the Sustainability Fair on May 4th. There's a couple of talks happening in the Terrafield room that day as well from the Land Trust, and learning about smart energy in your home and being more efficient and saving a few bucks while you're doing it too, and learning about EVs. And I think Selectman Looney is bringing his cyber truck from what I heard. I'm just kidding, but that's all for me.
What did he say?
Hi, I've got a few things from, Heather will do public safety. Board of Ed, the last meeting they recognized the girls basketball team on their historic state champion. Shannon Gagne gave a report on their fine arts for the district, and Beth Hennessy gave a report on the central school, their vision statement that was about 2 years in the making. From the Aging and Disability Commission, there was a senior forum on April 9th at Simsbury Public Library, addressing some senior needs. And the next Super Thursday event will be May 9th here at, on a Thursday, May 9th. Downstairs we'll be serving lunch. Parks and Rec, as we mentioned, Saturday is our community cleanup day. I will be at Town Hall. Please join us. I'll be happy to hand out trash bags, gloves, whatever you need. Come by, make sure we keep Simsbury clean. Additionally, they had about over 1,000 kids participate in the flashlight egg hunt last week, which was rained out the previous week. The weather was great last week. They're also planning the last day of school event. Information will be coming soon on that, and a Father's Day Touch-a-Truck event, which you can find information on soon. Youth Service Advisory Board, Mark touched on the internet safety. There's also a few other events that I'll be talking about over the next couple of months, including an intergenerational tie-dye event on June 27th. From the PAC, Taylor Swift Band is coming August 3rd. Big event. Sound Bites Food and Music Festival is May 18th, and the Talcott Mountain Music Festival tickets will go on sale in the next few weeks. That's about all, because Fair Rent is not meeting yet, and neither is Business Development Incentive.
Okie dokie. Steve, got anything?
Nothing to report, everything's in motion that I'm involved with, so nothing at this time.
Okay, and I already mentioned the Fair Rent Commission, Steve and Heather both involved in those interviews. So Heather, that's it on to you.
Okay, so for planning, the Planning Commission, at their next meeting on 4/23 will be, they will be meeting with the three finalists for the Terriffill neighborhood plan for the RFP. So they have that coming up. For public safety, we had a great meeting. And, okay, so with the police, we have, the police have a rapid SOS that they will be added to work with the 911 system, and details will be going out soon in the next couple of weeks to residents as to how they may subscribe. We have the VNA and social services and fire department working with the Steps to Safety program. This program helps to educate our older adults about home fire and fall safety through presentations and home visits. The fire department also reported that their mill rate will go from 1 to 1.05 due to increased costs associated with apparatus and personnel gear. They also are in the process of replacing engine 3, so they've put out the bids for that, and that's going on with them. The Board of Ed reported that Latimer Lane is ahead of schedule, and they are 6 to 7 months out from completion. And the ambulance just completed their state inspection, and they're good for another 2 years. And they also have a new public relations committee for things to do with residents, such as blood drive classes and formal class inspections. Their transports were also up to 328 for January and February. The elevator will be out at Town Hall 4/6 to mid-June. And I believe that's what I have to report.
Okay, Curtis?
Zoning met, and they approved the sign change for Simsbury Farms. There's a new design for the Simsbury Farms sign. They voted to have a public hearing on the floodplain amendment. We had our first IT task force, and it happened to be the week before we had a cyber attack. The Barracuda Centennial caught the attack. There were 250 email attacks over that weekend. They put in a new appliance during December, which helped them catch these attacks, the cyber attacks were getting. Let's see, they had a library switch upgrade next year, cybersecurity audit for next year. Let's say that's enough, I think, for the IT task. The police commission, they have 6 officers out on extended leave. 1 officer's coming back this month. They have 2 vacancies. The high-risk grant started for speeding, the one that we approved for them to have. They have stopped 77 cars through this effort. I think similar to what you were saying, they applied for a grant to upgrade dispatch software. The current system is 20 years old and it's based on flip cards. So this will reduce redundancy, help with medical and standardized calls for police and fire. There's a $70,000 grant for this. They should hear about this grant in the fall. For fiscal year 2025. And then you mentioned Officer Mario. And that's it.
Thank you. Okay, before we get into selectmen action, I have a few items I'd like to ask for a motion, I'd recommend a motion to move them to the consent agenda. Not all of them, Steve, just. I was gonna ask to move the tax refund request, item B, item C, the public gathering permit, and item D, the dial-a-ride grant, because that is kind of a recurring grant and it's already been budgeted for 2025. And then I would skip to the appointments. Those are the 4 that I would like to do. The rest, I feel like there's stuff to discuss. So somebody can make that motion.
I move.
And is there a second for that?
Second.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, so we've moved those out. I'm gonna move them out physically. so I don't read them again later, because I made some mistakes tonight. I'm trying
Nobody's
to,
keeping track.
I am.
You know what's happening.
No, we have, between.
I need like a counter like a stroke counter like for golf. That's embarrassing too, so I shouldn't have said that. Okay, so the first item, that what?
Nothing, doing great.
It's hard in here because the sound is so weird. It's very weird. I couldn't really understand a lot of what the speakers were saying either, so that was troublesome. So the first item we have tonight is actually bringing to the table the proposed amendment to the retirement income plan. I'm going to turn this over to Mark. I do want to say a couple of things beforehand. This came to the board in February, I believe, the proposal. It started with the police commission wanting to find a way to retain key staff, and it evolved from there into basically making just changes to the pension plan to allow for an in-service distribution for key personnel in an effort to retain knowledge. There was a couple comments tonight about, is turnover better or keeping knowledge? And I guess it depends on how you look at it. With a lot of transition, you've got a lot of training and you have to bring people up to speed. Whereas if you keep key personnel, you're retaining knowledge and you're keeping the status quo. So it really depends on the perspective that the person brings to the table. So there are pros and cons in all. We've heard from the police commission, we've heard from Mark Nelson, we've also heard from the interim town manager on their positive referral for making these changes to the pension plan. I do want to defer a couple questions to Mark.
Sure.
So the gentleman that was here before, Kevin said, he did ask, he was the one who asked about we had asked about other towns, if you wanted to comment on that. And I did want to also comment on something that Travis said, that this current plan is not going to change anything for current officers. It's only for senior level members and staff. So if you'd like to address some of this. Mark?
Thanks very much, and I appreciate all of the comments. Just with respect to the gentleman at the public hearing that asked a couple of questions, we did investigate the drop plan and actually all alternative means to achieve the same outcome. We were obviously cognizant, first and foremost, of the costs involved with transition. Our position has been from the very beginning that in this situation, turnover is actually a strong negative, especially when communities around the region and indeed the country are seeking senior level command staff in their police departments because of the large number of retirements that one commissioner mentioned tonight. So we did look at the drop plan, and it was just not a viable plan. It was not an option that we could here in Simsbury move forward with. The other question is an interesting question about, what other communities proximate to Simsbury have done this. I can tell you that a couple of communities not far from here are exploring this. The issue, and I think what we want to clarify for the board tonight in advance of any action, is that this amendment, it authorizes the in-service distribution as an option for an eligible participant in the plan to take it if he or she wants to. Because of that, it mitigates this perception that our own retirement plan is incentivizing people to leave. And that's been the case for a long time, particularly in policing. You work your 20 years or your 25 years and you're out, and you go, get a second pension somewhere else. And so I think, as I had said in a couple of the memos that were circulated about this previously, that seems counterintuitive when, frankly, retirement plans have always been, at least in my opinion, for the purpose of retention and for recruitment as well. It's a main reason that people come and work for us. And so to take a retirement plan that incents people to come and incents them to stay, and then all of a sudden, after a certain number of years of service, you turn it on its head and it now incentivizes them to leave, That's the issue with the current workings of the plan that we're seeking board approval to amend. The short answer about other communities is that I believe you're going to see more of this happening throughout the country as communities really wrestle with retaining senior and experienced leaders at a time when the labor market is tighter than at any time in at least the last 30 years, if not longer. So Simsbury will be out in front of our other communities if you enact this. I'm very proud of that, actually, because a good amount of work has gone into researching this. Our actuaries have done not one, not two, but 3 different separate analyses over the last 4 months as we've explored this. And so we're proud of the work that was done. And I just want to say for the public's benefit that, you know, a couple of the sessions as this was developed were held in executive session. I can tell you at this point that the work of the Personnel Subcommittee, 3 of the members on this board, with our staff, both in HR and my deputy, did a tremendous job making this amendment better. The original amendment did not have certain key provisions. For example, it did not prevent someone who takes the in-service distribution from then turning around and taking or participating in the alternate plan that the town offers. For those that understand pension and retirement plans, the town offers both a defined contribution and a defined benefit plan, and employees can choose which one he or she wants to participate in. Under the amendment before you this evening, we're closing that loophole, and so an individual who takes the in-service distribution and continues to work for the town will not earn any further retirement benefit, will not extend the years of service for which they're currently eligible, which is not being changed by the amendment, that's 25 years, and more importantly, will not be eligible to participate in the defined contribution plan, and that's important. Those provisions of this amendment remove it from the realm of what has been referred to over the years as others have looked at this as double dipping. This is not double dipping at all. What it does is allow a participant to take the benefit that he or she has earned and contributed. And by taking it earlier, as the actuarial analysis has demonstrated, the pension benefit is lower. It's lower because their life expectancy is longer. But once you take it, it's fixed. It is not then increased by subsequent raises. So if an individual takes the in-service distribution and then works for the town for the next 6 years and gets, 2% a year as a GWI or as a raise, those raises are not factored in and the pension benefit doesn't change. I think that answers all the questions I heard at public comment. I just want to, and I'm happy to answer any others, but I will say that, I've been in public service a long time. Our thanks to interim town manager Lee Erdman, who actually worked with the police commission and others to kind of design the earlier evolution of this proposal. And so I wanted to thank Lee and all the staff that worked on this. Thank you very much.
So I'm going to, I think, but given the amount of public audience we have, I think option B seems to be the choice for tonight, rather than delay the thing on this. So I'd like to ask for a motion effective April 15, 2024, to adopt the proposed amendments to the town retirement income plan as presented, which shall be effective 21 days after publication in a newspaper, having circulation within the town of Simsbury, and further move to authorize a summary of the revised plan be published.
Can we do
Then we'll
discussion
discussion.
first? Okay.
Oh, I was gonna do it after too.
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah, I wanted to have discussion. So somebody wants to.
So moved.
Okay, and then.
I'll second it.
Okay, and now discussion, so I'll turn that over to Steve.
So when Mark was talking, I've been on personnel, so I've been looking at this for months with you guys. If they don't take the in-service distribution, are they eligible to switch their pension? Or is it only triggered if they take the in-service distribution?
It's an interesting question, and I don't want to, put the town in any risk on this, but I will say that it's quite clear that you can only participate in one or the other.
But once you've commenced,
Once you've commenced taking the retirement, you could make an argument potentially that you're no longer participating because you're precluded and foreclosed from continuing to accrue a further benefit. So our strong recommendation is for approval, not simply because of all the reasons you've heard tonight, but because this amendment does make an important fix and clarifies that, as we know, you can't contemporaneously do both. What we're not sure, because it's never happened, is somebody chooses to continue to work after the maximum number of years for which they could accrue a benefit, and then comes upstairs and says, I'd now like to participate in the defined contribution plan. That has not happened because, it's as we've talked about over the months, it's extremely rare. I've never seen it where a long-serving, tenured senior leader would want to stay and continue to serve the town or the municipality, even knowing that they are foregoing a continued pension benefit that they could earn elsewhere.
Mark, is it your understanding that somebody who may have maxed out their benefit, they're still enrolled in the defined benefit plan?
I want to defer that to legal counsel only because it could put the town in jeopardy on this, looking ahead many months. I will say that my own view as a non-lawyer is that when my employer ceases to give me a benefit, I am no longer participating in the plan. I'm a recipient of the payments, so I am being distributed my pension. But my argument might be that those are monies that I have earned and I have already accrued previously. A benefit is a benefit that continues into the today and in the future, whereas receiving a retirement check is payment for a benefit that was previously accrued.
Okay, so is this something that we just need further clarification on?
I don't think it shouldn't impact the board's decision. I think
Yeah,
that,
Just to make sure it's clarified.
we can pass it
Yeah.
with the understanding that we want this language refined.
Absolutely.
To prevent the double dip.
The board has this wide discretion, absolutely.
Okay. Any other comments from the board?
I guess one thing we still didn't ever close a loop on is we had a concern expressed at one point or do we know, are we going to get any pushback? Somebody had mentioned potential union pushback at some point, whether it's the pushback over not having others be able to participate in something like this, or having the lack of availability of forward movement and forward promotion, and stifling that ability. So I just want to validate that is something that we don't know whether that will happen or not, because until we move this forward, but it is a possibility, and just want to voice the concern that is out, a potential. That, we don't want to, going into negotiations, with the union, have something that's potentially compromised, so.
Those are excellent questions, and I appreciate the opportunity to kind of maybe punctuate these. What's before you is something that would change would give the option to unaffiliated members. It signals to our unions that, the town is concerned, and rightly so, with retention and recruitment. Keep in mind that whether or not this benefit, because it is a benefit, it's an option. If you approve it, you've given them an option that they didn't have before. It's therefore our view that this is a subject of collective bargaining. In other words, if the unions want to put it on the table, they have the right to put it on the table. My view is that that's not a negative, because we encourage all of our collective bargaining groups to, we negotiate in good faith. We want to hear from them about what they would like to see. And any time one of your unions puts something on the table that they would like to see for their members, frankly, it gives the town the opportunity to do the same, and that's what that negotiation is. The analysis shows us that it is essentially cost neutral to do this. And so the question in collective bargaining would be, first of all, would the unions want to consider it? And if they do, great. And secondly, what would be the give on the other side of that equation for the town? I hope that answers your question, but I will say just one other thing, and that is with respect to the transition and the upward mobility of our officers, which we take very seriously. I know the Police Commission takes it very seriously. I think that, and I've had a couple of discussions with my colleagues around the state about this, in a very small community, upward mobility is, to be quite candid, not just Simsbury, but it would have to be viewed as the Farmington Valley, or at least, a 30, 40, 50 mile radius. And so if you're an officer and or even as a middle management in police and you're looking to advance your career, the reality is that you're looking outside of Simsbury. You're looking at Farmington and Avon and others, right? Now, if we were sitting here in a big municipality that had many more departments within its divisions within its police, then I would think that the argument you heard from one of the commenters at public comment would be more valid. If we were a larger community, then I would be, obviously that upward mobility would be within our own department. As I said earlier, you've got a number of chief positions that are either vacant now around the state, or we know, and so does everyone else, that those positions will be vacated shortly by retirements. And I have to just say, our officers who look at career advancement are just as, I think, just as likely to look at those positions as they would a position here in Simsbury. So weighing all of the facts, we recommend approval.
Just to follow up from what you just said, I think just a little confused, because you said that to move up in the ranks,
Yep.
you have an opportunity to go in the region, but we want to also keep as many people here as possible. So that it's kind of like double-sided, right? So
It is.
You want to be able to give them a path to move forward,
Yep.
but also understand that when you get to the top, you can keep that position. So I don't know if that's necessarily a benefit, that they can look around. We kind of want to keep them here, but.
I think there's one thing that we all agree on, and I think that maybe Travis, the police commission chair, mentioned it, but this idea that turnover and transition is a positive is misplaced. I think I would disagree with that. Whenever you have transition and turnover, particularly in senior roles, it's expensive. There's an inherent risk in the unknown. And there is always, I think, turbulence around transition. Curtis, I do take your point to heart about this. We've given it a fair amount of thought. I think the reality, and we just have to be candid, is that, everyone is looking to advance their careers, and they weigh that with their desire to continue to work in a community that they perhaps live in or love or have worked for 25 years. What I would say to you is, very respectfully, everybody makes their own decisions about what motivates them. I just can't put myself in those positions and say, well, why would I want to stay or why would I want to leave? Some people would say, 25 years, I'm out of here, I'm going to go become a chief in Florida, will pay you $50,000 and moving expenses, for example, right? I think Governor DeSantis famously said, invited New York State troopers to resign en masse and come to Florida, So, we've seen these things. One thing we do know, Curtis, is that recruitment at the highest level is getting more and more difficult. Retention is getting more and more difficult. This started around policing, but I think you and others on the board said, well, why can't we open it to all unaffiliated? I think that was, we looked at that feedback from the board, and we went ahead and did it. And the amendment that's in front of you tonight opens it up to unaffiliates as well. And I think our discussion back and forth was really a strong discussion. I don't think we need to do it because we don't have unaffiliated members lining up to ask for the in-service, given the fact that you can't participate in the other type of plan. Who would want to do it? But then upon reflection, we said, well, if they really, you don't expect anybody to do it, then why not do it? And so what you've got is a much stronger amendment, I think, that closes those loopholes and makes it available essentially to all unaffiliateds. So you've got a broader class. And then back to Diana's question, if the unions want to bring this up as something that they'd be interested in negotiating for, so much the better.
There is a point to be made, just the counterpoint. If you never bring in people with experience from other communities, you're never learning. I'll just say it point blank, I'm in favor of this. But there is always those nuances that every point has a counterpoint.
Very true.
Like I said, I've looked at this a long time.
Yeah.
So,
So I was gonna make a few comments. You know, we've been talking about this with pros and cons for a while. Right now, it's boiled down to the pension plan. You know, I do feel like that there are some potential unknown impacts to the PD as a result of this. We have heard from people in the public who, you know, favor safety in the community and feel that the chief is responsible for that, and has contributed to that. I do grapple again with the transition of people in and out with upward mobility for people versus keeping experience. I am actually I'm planning to vote for this, and I'm basing a lot of it on the people that are responsible for the police department and the police and the officers and the senior staff, and that is the police commission, who has strongly advocated for this, knowing that it's really started out for one person. The town manager has strongly, our paid professionals have strongly stood up for this, and that's what we're paying you to do, is to give us good recommendations. And so that's where I am on that right now. So since we've all moved and seconded this, I'm gonna take a vote on this if well.
Can I add one last thing?
Sure.
I'm so sorry. I just want to further specify on the actual amendment number 5, what I'm talking about is section 10.1, striking from the sentence, while receiving an in-service distribution pursuant to this provision. What I'd like to do is prevent the double dipping while we are doing this corrective measure and making it impossible, to be honest. Otherwise, we are leaving the double dipping literally ensconced in this ordinance, you know, the ability to take it. We're actually not correcting it, we're actually reinforcing it's an option. So if we strike that one sentence, I think that clarifies it with what my understanding was, to be quite frank.
Just a point of clarification, will we have to rewarn the public hearing if we make changes to the amendment that was posted?
If legal says it's not a substantive change, then no, you would not have to conduct another public hearing. If it's just a sentence in there and it doesn't change the intent of the legislation, then I'm confident you wouldn't need to. Selectman Antonio, do you have a sentence in mind, or do you want to?
I'm literally talking about striking it. When you strike it, it says, however, the participant may not receive a retirement benefit from any other retirement plan offered by employer, and so on. So it literally self-corrects by removing that verbiage in between. Otherwise, it implies the only time that would occur is if they took an in-service distribution. And it was my understanding during this long time we've been discussing it, that part of the perk of this was the ability to stopgap the double dip.
I see what you're saying, and it's not a substantive change, it is a clarification. I think that the prohibition to participating in both clearly exists in our personnel rules and regs. No employee can participate in both, so legal would have felt it unnecessary and not harmful to say, however, you can't participate in it. Because again, our discussion earlier alluded to the chance, but again, it's just a chance that somebody might say, my participation in the defined benefit plan ended when I took the early retirement, when I took the in-service distribution, and now I want to come up to HR and start making contributions to the defined contribution plan. I would not strike the sentence personally, but if it's okay with the board, we will have that clarified in a way that does not trigger the need for another public hearing.
Okay. So
I'm concerned about that recommended change, Stephen, just because as I read it, I understand your intent fully, and I think that it's a responsible consideration. I'm just concerned that if we remove that, it makes the rest of the amendment unclear. The reason why it was added was to clarify that while they're taking the in-service distribution, I think you're trying to allude to the ability to switch plans, which is what we're talking about here, and whether or not they continue on the plan when they've maxed out their years of eligible service. And so what I would offer is if we needed to make a substantive change here, it would have to be substantive. And it would say that members who begin in one plan and have maxed out their eligibility, that they are still considered enrolled in that plan even if they have reached their, even if it's matured or whatever the appropriate language is. That's the only way I think in my mind that it would clarify what you're hoping to do. And I don't even know if that would stand up, because what Mark is saying, if they were offered a benefit and they were no longer receiving it, they've had their benefits changed. Here we're clarifying that their benefit is that they can use their in-service distribution that they've earned and take it. They just can't take another one. But I don't know that it's going to help us. I don't know that it would. If Mark's consideration is that that somebody who maxes out their eligibility for the plan is not still enrolled, I think we're in the same boat.
Yeah, and I would just add upon the extra minute you gave me to think about this, that I would not want to strike that sentence, Stephen, because it was a linchpin to what differentiated this from the earlier, the prior evolutions. And the other thing I would be very hesitant to ask the board to do is change a key sentence that was, I mean, I didn't write it, the lawyers wrote this. And so I would recommend passage of this as written, relying again on our understanding that it's already clear in other documents that an employee, whether or not they've taken the in-service, cannot participate in both, right? But I do understand Stephen's point, but I would recommend not changing the amendment.
Sorry, if I could. So when it's mentioned section 10.1, that's in the retirement plan that talks about the joint and survivor annuity options in that different way. So then how it reads is while receiving the distribution plan pursuant to those joint and survivor annuity plans, that you then can't enroll in another.
It's out of context, that's the.
Okay, works for me.
Yep.
So we'll just get clarification that it's doing what we expect it to be doing.
Yeah.
I hate to add to this, but I
Yes.
know that there's been some discussion and some concern, and I wanted to add just another thought. I got a note about this as well, as I think some other members. When an employee participates in a defined benefit or defined contribution plan, the payments that they get, whether or not they're in service or part of the regular retirement distribution, are not themselves taxpayer funded. We're not paying a second salary to somebody else. Those are properly invested funds, and those distributions are a part of an accumulated invested benefit that they get. So that's one reason why financially this actually ends up being a pretty good decision, I think, for the community. If we were, for instance, to have a person that's qualified for this leave the town, we hire a new senior leader in their place who then is also benefits eligible, and they're also taking their in-service, they're not in-service, but their distributions from the plan as a retiree somewhere else. We're now paying both entities, and in this scenario, we not only retain the knowledge management of the senior leader here in the community who wants to spend a nominal number of years, continuing to serve, not losing out any benefit on their own, and the town financially ends up, I think, in a fairly strong position. So from the fiscal conservative side of me, as well as wanting to take care and modernize our retirement plans, after looking at it and having the personnel subcommittee do all the initial work, it made a lot of sense to me. So it's not an additional cost to the taxpayers who are trying hard to make ends meet and having somebody get an additional distribution. They're just receiving what they earned. That's all it is. And what they earned is invested funds that were contributed over the years. So I just wanted to make sure that I clarified that for those that were concerned about this being an additional payout in some way.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Kevin. Okay, so all those in favor of passing the motion that was made 20 minutes ago. I don't mean to joke about that, I'm sorry. Let me say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Okay. Okay, next next item up is the Department of Justice grant. I don't see the chief here tonight to discuss this, but this is, I can explain it, but do you guys want to explain it? Anybody here that wants to talk about it? Trying to pass it along and share the wealth.
I can
You
fill
got
it
this,
after
Wendy.
if you want.
I don't want it, but I'll do it. This is the grant that goes through Senator Blumenthal's office that we didn't get last year, right? Yeah. Okay, well. No. If we have, yeah, so it's for the 911 system, right, to go
Right.
from the flip cards to the.
This grant would be implemented by electronic software that would then streamline that, so it's a more consistent program specifically, it does a lot of medical calls, which is well familiar, we get a lot of medical calls. So the flip card would still be determined as a backup, but this is a new to us system that will provide additional information and it will streamline the process for our dispatches.
And that was something we also learned in the police academy. We did. So I do have a couple questions on this generally before bringing it. I noticed that there is an annual ongoing operating cost, and I'm wondering, has this been budgeted for the next year?
It would be for your next year budget prep.
But is it?
So because this is gonna be the FY '25 congressional funding, so when you're doing your budget for FY '26 next March, in 11 months from now, then it would be budgeted for that.
Okay, so this will be a new item in the budget next year for $10,000 to cover the cost annually. The other question I had is do we have a line item, or have we had an item in the CNR for this item, or are we just kind of rolling with the request? Has it ever been a CNR item? Okay.
Different things, but it's currently pending last year's.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
I know there was discussion when we was here, but I'm not sure on their specific part.
I don't think it made it to CNR, at least in the early days, because they knew this grant was going to be sought. I can't speak to whether it was discussed prior to that, but Tom's correct, the new funding would not be next fiscal year. Essentially, we're budgeting for that now. It would be the year after.
So this wouldn't come in until 25, 26 is what we're saying?
The grant would come in 25, 26.
The grant would come in, so the federal fiscal year is different than ours. The federal is October to September, so it would come in somewhere in there. And then we would be putting it in for July 25 to June 26 would be the recurring software cost that you add next year.
Okay, so this gets into my bottom line question is on the appropriation. We've done this a few times. And I'm gonna make the motion, as for the motion separately, and I would say that we shouldn't appropriate it yet until we get it and we know where it's going and where it's being attributed.
I agree with that.
Okay, all right, it's good, thank you. All right, so I'm gonna ask for the motion.
Can I just ask?
Yeah.
unless you
Oh,
were
no,
asking
no, you
for
can ask
discussion.
now.
Just a point of clarification. You said that this was not approved last year.
Yeah.
We did, that's what I wanted clarification. We applied, we just didn't get
Senator
the grant.
Blumenthal didn't give it to us last year.
Okay, so we had voted to move forward, as our previous board moved it forward, we did not get the grant.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
We did get one 2 years ago, though. I just want to
Okay.
give them a plug
Right.
for some other technology.
Yeah, I just wanted the clarification
no.
of like, did we not move it forward, or
Yeah,
did we
no,
not get the grant?
no, we
Thank
didn't
you.
get it. Could call up the office.
Do you, I have a question, the 9,300 cost, annual cost projection, is that something that tends to stay consistent, or, what has been in the past when you look at other departments who have this?
It's consistent for about 3 years. It's typically, that's my best answer. It's not consistent forever, but I wouldn't expect it to increase in year 2, if that's your question.
So I'm gonna ask for a motion effective April 15, 2024, to retroactively submit a grant application to the DOJ through the offices of Senators Richard Blumenthal and Chris Murphy for the 2025 COPS Law Enforcement Technology and Equipment Grant. Authorize town manager Mark Nelson to execute the grant, and if it's awarded, move to accept the grant. Authorize town manager Mark Nelson to execute all documents related to the grant award.
So moved.
Second.
Why is it retroactive?
Sorry, I can say that. The application deadline was April 14th.
Okay.
So chief had sent it in on Friday.
Okay, so the grant has already been submitted.
It's been submitted, but if you did not approve it, we would then email them and say, can you please
Yeah,
pull
just
it?
withdraw.
Okay, they'll withdraw it. Okay. Did somebody make that motion, and did we second it?
Moved
here?
and seconded.
Yes.
That's
Okay,
all.
so, any further discussion? Because that was the discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
But I did it yesterday, so
You did what yesterday?
He did it, he
I voted yesterday.
voted yesterday.
Oh. Very funny,
I got you.
Kevin.
It's all right.
Okay. Well,
like
you
the
can't
one
hear anything
humor
down
demon.
here.
Sorry, I should.
It's the echo chamber. Okay. Next up
Smackdown.
is the Department of Economic and Community Development grant application. I'll just give a little background. We have Adam here, but this is basically the State Bond Commission grant in its true form, which is a DECD urban something grant, correct? Tom, sorry. Adam, do you want to talk about this at all, or do you not want to? I know you're here.
He's like, I've been sitting here the whole time.
No, he's here for something else. That's
better let me
why
talk.
he's here for another discussion. You don't have to, yeah.
So this is the application to that grant program. And we kind of held off on submitting the documents because of the budget process. Everything's going. So this is just you submit that application, sign and submit it, and then I think the intent is in May to come back for the resolution. Good, forever and pass for the project. And we, this is really just for $900,000. That's pretty much just, it's pretty much,
Okay. I'll be happy to make the motion. A couple of things. I was going to also not recommend appropriating the funds until we know, where the PAC is on their funding and we get our funding approved, and just leave it at the first two items again. The board is, I'll ask for a motion. Effective April 15th, to submit a grant application to the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development, and authorize town manager Mark Nelson to execute the grant application. And if it's awarded, move to accept the grant and authorize town manager Mark Nelson to execute the documents related to the grant award.
Moved. So moved.
Second.
All those.
I just have a question.
Oh, yeah.
So we got an extension, which is great. Do you know what the date of the extension goes until?
Yeah, that was my question.
they, we place situation having to wait on, sort of a resolution in May.
Until May.
Essentially, this just allows them to start the paperwork on their time.
Mhm.
So we're kind of,
Thank you.
So let's vote on, do you have any other questions or discussion?
No, that was mine. I asked how long the extension was for, so.
Okay, yeah, they asked, originally they had asked to have it done by March 19th, and it was in the middle of the budget, and we
I have no further questions.
okay, so all those in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, there is the request, to do the resolution that they asked for, in here. Now, I don't know how anyone else feels. I prefer to save the resolution until the budget's over and we have a better understanding of where the rest of the money's coming from. Because it says it's cognizant of the conditions and prerequisites of the state financial assistant. And since we don't know what we don't know, that's mine. I don't know if anybody wants to make this motion to do the resolution or just save it till the May meeting. The resolution is in the packet. So if there's no interest in doing this resolution now, we'll save it for after the budget.
Sure.
Everybody?
Do we need to do the resolution now to do anything else, or can we hold off?
So the resolution triggers, I think it's only needed for the contracting. There's a big work that I need to
Mhm.
so there's no harm in waiting from that.
Great.
Contracting of the project?
Other than actually giving us the
Yeah, we're the fiduciary, so we have to.
So if it will impact us not getting it, then I would do the resolution. If it's not gonna impact us
No,
getting it.
no harm.
Okay, I think we're just so we have a better feel for that it's passed and that we have a better feel for where the PAC's coming in.
So I'd like to move to table the resolution.
Oh, it's not even a motion,
Okay.
but, so just don't make the motion.
Withdrawn.
The proposed referendum date also lines up. You'll have a meeting. The proposed referendum date is the Friday the 10th. You have a meeting the following Monday, the 13th in May.
So we can.
So it lines up pretty perfect for that.
Okay, okay, everybody good with that?
Yes.
Okay,
Great.
let's move along then. Okay. Okay, well, you're coming up again, so, oh, is this it? Yeah, this is the big one. This is the this is on the trail. And this is why Adam really is here. He wasn't here
okay.
for the last one.
Yeah, so this one's for the trail. I think we were in front of you a couple meetings ago for another grant for the trail. This one is the TAP grant, Transportation Alternative Set Aside Program. We were encouraged by DOT to submit for this. You'll notice that we're not going to allocate a match for this grant. Essentially, we're submitting an application for the entire project itself, design and construction, which amounts to, I think, about $15 million. And premise of our submission, which is consistent with past practice of other towns. For example, Bloomfield's doing the same thing for their section of the East Coast Greenway, is to submit with the intent that DOT honors their past practice of contributing the match for this, for the federal money. So we're assuming that the state will kick in the 20% match to the federal grant that we're submitting for. The only requirement for that federal grant, the local match, is that it's non-federal funds. So at this time, we're just going to submit it as, we're not contributing anything, and hopefully they pick up the full bill. So that grant's due, I think, May 13th. So we have a little bit of time, but we're throwing together documents and we'll submit it if it's approved.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just curious, so with the 20% match, did you have to accept, is there a time frame where you have to have the guarantee of the 20% match, or we would have to have that figured out prior to accepting the 80%? What's the timing work? How does the timing work with that?
The timing is difficult for this, for the federal grants. For example, our Curtis Trail is a transportation alternative set-aside program. And we essentially just waited for our turn in line. So that CROG and the state kind of worked down a list, and we were about third or fourth down that list. And it took about 5 years until we were eligible. So that's kind of another reason to not acknowledge the 20%, because it can take a number of years to actually move down that list. So that's basically my recommendation for that would just be to move forward with this, and we'll, if we are awarded it and need to make an appropriation or what have you, we will. Sometimes these projects will not even hit our books, so there's no appropriation needed. Essentially, the DOT would take it on, and we're just there in the room to approve and kind of affect the design, but not appropriate funds.
So so this is the whole conversation we've been having, hoping that the state's gonna pay for that massive trail between Terriffill and Curtis. And it's not in our I called Tom on this today just to clarify, it's not in our CIP yet, because we don't know, it's not when exactly, right? As far as this portion.
It's one of the out years.
Yeah, okay.
So it shows up to kind of demonstrate our commitment to the project itself.
Okay, right.
But it could sit at year 4 of our plan, every single year. It just sits out there. So there's no harm there. You know, our deep trails grant that we did submit for design, that could, basically, if we got this grant, we would, you know, reject the deep trails grant. But there are conversations happening between DOT and DEEP right now. So DEEP's reviewing those trail grant applications, and DOT is also reviewing them, kind of flagging the giant projects such as this, such as Bloomfields, and I'm sure New Britain has an application in there as well, that are simply too big for the Trails Grant program. So there are, you know, some discussions behind the scenes, and this kind of puts us in line for another program just in case ours gets flagged as possibly a project DOT should take over.
Okay. One comment I have again on this one is I'm not gonna do anything to appropriate the grants or recommend, you know, just pushing it along, because A, we don't know how much money it's gonna be, B, we don't know what it is, and as we've run into before, if it's $15 million, it's way over the 2% mark that the charter says, and we can't just appropriate that money, so we'd have to have it come back here. So I'm gonna ask for a motion effective April 15, 2024, to submit a grant application to the Capital Region Council of Governments and authorize Town Manager Mark Nelson to execute the grant application and signature of the project sponsor and commitment statement. And in the event that the grant is awarded, the following motion will be in order to move to accept the grant and authorize Town Manager Mark Nelson to execute all documents related to the grant award.
So move.
Second.
From Curtis got it.
Got it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, go get us $15 million.
Thanks, Anna.
Okay, so the next item is our Board of Selectmen calls. So just for, you guys are sticking around for this. Huh? So we met back in, when did we meet? January?
End of January, yeah.
Did we meet on a Saturday or was it afternoon? Was it-
29th.
29th, I believe.
Okay, so we met on January 29th, we discussed, oh yeah, we did, it was, yes, I remember it now. Just came back to me. No, the whole setting of that
Yes.
evening, yes. So we came up with goals, and, you know, these are the summation of the goals that the majority of us felt were where we were. What I want to do tonight is we can accept the goals, we can have discussion on the goals, but I thought it might be beneficial to, you know, just, do we want to run down the goals? The question came up, do we want to prioritize the goals? A counter to that is, we can hopefully work on ones that rise to the top as they rise to the top, and we're able to work on those. I can open this up for questions of what people want to talk about. I'm open for anything.
What's the highlighted for?
So those were added after
Okay.
this went out, like they were part of the, you know, so any changes in here were handled by feedback presented to Mark and team, inclusions, exclusions, from looking at what was, you know, prioritized by the board. The yellow items were, I guess they came in after,
Correct.
you know, either from one or multiple people. And we can discuss those and take them out if they aren't, you know, a consensual item. That's what those are.
Well, I think it would be prudent to make sure we're all in agreement on these goals and then approve our goals and then prioritize them. So I think,
Yeah.
like, rather than prioritizing them right now, let's make sure that we approve these
Okay.
goals and then we have a prioritization list so that we then can take these goals and look at what we want, how we want to move forward with them. That's my suggestion.
Okay, that's not a bad idea. I also think that some of these may rise to the top as things that we can tackle. And they
Right.
may not be the highest priority, but they're on the list, so
Right.
that's another option.
It doesn't mean we won't tackle them if they're not like the number one priority, because things, as you say, rise to the top. But it does show the strength on what our Board of Selectmen goals could be, even if we're working on some lower priorities in any given moment, like our end game being, you know, these are you know, we prioritize these not necessarily at the expense of others, but that we would like to make sure that these are priorities for us in all that we
do as a board, in our goals, in everything we do, and that this is something that's for the benefit of the town that we feel is important.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So would people like to go through these, get clarification, ask questions on them? What would people like to do?
Sure. I have a question on the create a town manager succession plan. What is that? What does that mean?
Well,
He's making an announcement tonight.
Is that yellow?
I actually
It's yellow.
submitted-
Somebody added it.
I submitted it because we had talked there, and it was worded incorrectly. It's not a succession plan for the town manager. It was for the town manager to create a can never say that. Even I watched the show and I can't. Succession plan for leadership in town hall.
I agree with that.
Okay.
So the
that's
town
the-
manager's succession plan, a succession plan that the town
It's
manager
his,
creates.
it's his succession plan for his leadership team. That's what that means. So that needs to be re-clarified.
Thank you for that, everybody.
So that's, okay.
I have a question.
Sure you do, sure.
Of course I do. Well, just sometimes the personalities in the role, I'm sure Mark will encompass this in what he brings forward, but sometimes the tenure and personalities in the role will actually alter. It can't just be a black and white. Because in the library, we just removed all the succession plans
Yeah.
for this same reason. It was in personnel, you were there. But because sometimes the actual succession is more based on tenure and personality, to be frank, than just person in spot B moves to spot A. So I'm just.
That's a good
making sure
point.
it's, it allows the mobility to have that input.
Okay.
Dead end, huh? Okay.
No,
never mind.
so there'll be nuances to a succession plan, really, right? Like, to have some form of plan in
A
place.
guideline.
I think if I may, and correct me if I'm wrong, my interpretation of what the board is saying is that as an organization, we don't want to get caught flat-footed if there's unexpected departures, shall we say, particularly in key positions. So I think it's a part of any organizational's management strategy to make sure that there's mentoring, training, and a succession plan, particularly for senior spots. If I have that right, then we can work to clarify that line a little bit for the board.
So I would offer that it sounds like what we're talking about is an employee leadership and development plan for mid to senior leaders, other staff that want to move into middle management. Sometimes people get promoted to be a manager. They don't know what good management is. Maybe they didn't have a good manager to follow, and giving them some tools and some skills. And I'm sure a lot of this can be insourced within the teams. And then for senior leaders in the same way that are performing well, how to improve and do better and have a higher EQ when they're working with staff, and a whole bunch of other things that make them better senior leaders, but then also developing the leaders who report to them as well for that succession planning and all that. So I think that it all ties in there. And what I'm hearing you say, Wendy, is something along those lines, and it sounds like Mark is moving that direction too.
As long as it doesn't cost money. No, I'm joking.
Well, I seriously think that some of this stuff is insourced. It's within leadership and team meetings, intentionally delegating when you can, incentivizing participation in training and other activities that can be free and publicly available. Reading crucial conversations as a team. I'm making it up a little bit, but there's serious things that you could do as staff that could enhance that. And I fully trust Mark and his leadership team being able to figure out what's right sized for that group. But I think that us endorsing that hopefully gives those leaders enough cover, so if they start investing some of that time in developing their staff, that they know that it's what the board would like them to do with their time, as opposed to just making the donuts every day.
Okay, that sounds good.
It was my understanding that the SVAA was an original goal, but it's highlighted.
Yeah. I don't know.
May just be a coloring error. Apologies.
It was a typing error.
We got crazy with the highlighter.
I love that. So any other questions on this? Do we want to pass them? And then, as Diana said, maybe we could reach out and just we could give our priorities on these and sort them. That's an option after we approve those. Is there further discussion on these? I would actually, at some point, like to see these posted somewhere with maybe a little bit of a contextual information for each one, for the public to understand what they're meaning, because it's hard even sometimes to read some of these now and remember the conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I'm comfortable with approving the goals, but I do think we need a little something more to each one of how long, what's the time frame for each goal? Is there a cost associated with them? And kind of little bullet points below each of just a starting point or a synopsis of some tasks associated with those goals.
Yeah, like
Perfect. We'd be happy to do that.
that would be great. Because we've said in the past that the goals are just like a spreadsheet or a document. It would be nice if they had some context that the public could really read.
Is this something that will go into the ClearGov?
Yeah, great question. To the extent that it's capital, remember, assuming the budget gets approved tomorrow, the budget includes ClearGov for capital and I believe CNR as well, but not for operating yet. That'll be in phase 2. But yeah, ClearGov gives you a lot of flexibility in budgeting. But to Heather's point, it is, I think, important to show the public. I mean, this was for internal.
Yeah.
But once you've adopted it, we'll put something together that outlines those things, particularly how long is it going to take to achieve the goal? Is there a cost impact? And maybe we could just add a yes or no, are there partner agencies involved? Is this a goal that our organization can achieve by itself? If we pay for it, can we get it? Or are we, there's a number of things on here that require the, shall we say, the participation or the cooperation of a partner entity in order for our goal to be successful. So I want to flag that as well. And we can put that together for you fairly quickly.
And I would imagine that some of these goals that there's some overlap.
Yeah, that was
within
actually
some
one
of
of
these
the
goals.
one of the challenges was because does something go where is transparency, and transparency is in everything. It could go anywhere, but I think we weren't able to find a way to completely avoid that overlap. But we'll take a look at it again as we add some text and some narration to each one.
Okay. And the other thing I was going to say that some of these will be flagged as town manager goals because we started looking at the town manager's goals and personnel to look at what's been done in the past, to look at what sort of performance management tools we want to use and how do we incorporate these goals and other town manager goals into that. So that's that. So I'm just going to put it out there. I'm going to ask for a motion effective April 15th, 2024. To adopt the Board of Selectmen 23-25 goals as presented.
So moved.
Second. Any more discussion?
I have a suggestion or an idea or thought that perhaps with some of these, it would be great to get updates on where we are and the achievement in the process toward the achievement on some of them. I don't know if they could.
Yes, and to Wendy's point, because obviously the town manager's goals are going to be next to be crafted, and I think my number one goal is to make sure we implement all of your goals. So with respect to that regular reporting, you're gonna see that once we finalize my goals. I think then I'm reporting on your goals and our goals collectively, at least a couple times a year, or to your subcommittees, if for example. Some of the goals might pertain to personnel sub, for example, but yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that. And we've actually already started on some, by the way. So.
Question, Wendy. Would we assign, and this is my being new to the process, would we assign board members to kind of liaison to certain goals? Or is this something where it's just the town is coming back to us with information?
We wouldn't. I mean, they will. I think a lot of them will come to us as a board. A lot of them maybe work on people, so to speak, in the housing subcommittee, the disaster recovery. If that is something, I mean, that's been discussed for a while. That would be per the task force working with the Public Safety Commission. So it would be individual members of the board working to achieve these goals for us together. Right? The same with the SVAA, just like all those MOUs, we're going to have groups working on those. So yeah, I think we'll all contribute in some way to these goals, and then we'll all get credit for doing it. Right?
Well,
That's
just
how-
to do that, we have to accomplish, it looks like 1.5 every month until the end of our term.
Okay, let's go. All right, so,
We're going to be busy.
so we're just voting now. We're ready to vote. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So the last item in the agenda is an item that I raised, and I'm trying to get in and find it because it's not in the packet, and I can't get in. So give me a minute, because I have to do my, oh, you have a hard copy? Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Where did you get that from?
Franklin's.
No. I didn't print it though, because I was already gone, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so when was it? 2 weeks ago, the Board of Finance hearing, 2 weeks ago already. There was a lot of discussion on the memorial, oh, hi, Tom, on the memorial pond. I keep saying pond because pool or pond is always at the forefront of my mind.
Yeah.
Did you say pond was good
Caddyshack.
for you? Yeah, it's one of my favorite lines ever. So this memorial pool redesign, when we met as a board, I felt like we left here with the intention that we approved spending the money for the evaluation, point A. We also discussed using reserves to do that, and part of the rationale was that we didn't really feel, we wanted to bond for something for 10 years in the event that we did not do the project. So that's one piece of what I wanted to bring up. The other part was there was confusion at the Board of Finance meeting as to what exactly was covered in the $150,000. And so that's why I wanted to address that. I think we could start there with Tom, then discuss if there's anything we can do to request that the $100,000, $150,000 be cash. And then I also had another thing that I wanted to put on the table too. But Tom, since you're here, do you want to explain in your own words what is included in that $150,000 evaluation?
Can you hear?
SCTV won't hear you.
For TV land.
So I appreciate the chance to talk about this again.
Yeah.
So my intent is that we will be using an architect or a specialist in this area to evaluate the current conditions of the bathhouse up there now, to see in what ways we can retrofit that to make it a public restroom facility that would both serve youth baseball and softball games and events up there, as well as a future splash pad.
That's it?
That's my intent. And then the site suitability of the splash pad. We would then, if the site is deemed suitable for a splash pad, and we know that the bathhouse can be renovated, then we would look at what we could put there. And I think what your hopes were for a good, better, best design of a splash pad. You know, X number of dollars here, X number of dollars for this, and you know, if we really can swing it, then this would be the be all and end all of splash pads. But that's the idea. If the town, if we come back with numbers that aren't good, aren't suitable for you guys, then the option is to wait till the pool fails, and then we close it, and then at some future date, we have, you know, we know what we can do and we can't do with the splash pad, and then we find funding for it at that time. The goal at the end of this, when I come back to you next winter, after all of our public input sessions and the work with the architect, is that we have a design that you can support, that we can go out and get grants for, and then move forward for hopefully an opening in summer 26. But we can't do any of that unless we have somebody beside, you know, somebody that's got a lot more knowledge than me about this type of subject to evaluate that site and give us a professional design based on what we have up there now, the infrastructure that's there.
Okay.
So it's also assessing the feasibility of.
Yeah, I'm assuming that the site can be used, but I've never dug up a pool and put a splash pad on the side of it. You know, it's sitting at the top of that hill there too. So we want to make sure if we're going to spend, you know, if we're going to ask you to allocate X number of dollars, we want to make sure that we can do it right up there where it is. I'm assuming we can, but I'm not an engineer.
Does this close the pool for any time period?
It should.
It shouldn't?
It should, no. I mean, we hopefully start public input sessions during the summer months. I mean, I don't know why an engineer or an architect couldn't get in there while the pool, while during the operating season and even after the fact. You know, assuming we haven't, anything hasn't catastrophically happened to that pool or the building between now and then.
That's probably the only way to calculate the water loss anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's a good way to do it too. I mean, regardless of, I think I've made my feeling pretty clear. It doesn't make any sense to, we all know, I've been very clear with you, the pool is leaking. We lose water, we're losing more than we should. The decking is in bad shape, the fencing's in bad shape, the building's in rough shape. It does not make sense to put another pool there at the cost of what a pool costs in today's dollars with the ongoing operation and maintenance cost of that pool. I think in today's reality, if we're going to put something there, a splash pad makes the best option, both to build it and to maintain it and operate it going down the line.
So it was my understanding, I'm one of the ones that was confused because I left with a different understanding, that the feasibility study, because we discussed other uses for it besides the splash pad, not nullifying the splash pad, but considering our other options. And now to hear there's only one option, it's the splash pad, and we're gonna spend $150,000 designing a splash pad, which is a little different than when I was for the $150,000, it was for a full feasibility study of a variety of options, which is why it would be $150,000.
I mean, we could potentially, in a perfect world, we're not spending up to that 150. We're going to keep it as economically cheap as we can. I don't want to say we're going to do it on the cheap, but we want to make sure we're not spending every last dime on a design. I agree that 150,000 is a little high, but we don't want to short it either, short the project either. Now, if you're looking at if you want to include, if it's the board's desire to include other uses such as filling the pool in and putting a basketball court there, we can look at that. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you were looking for.
So we haven't I left thinking the money was strictly splash pad focused.
And bath.
Yeah, so did I.
And bathhouse. And then at the Board of Finance, it came up that it was, I thought I heard that it was for other things besides that. And they were asking those questions, and that's why I wanted that clarified before tomorrow night, that we're specifically talking about this funding to do that specific project in that space.
Yeah. I don't know that in the times I've spoken, unless I misspoke, I mean, we had some long days. I don't recall pitching anything else.
No, I don't think you did,
but it may have come up in discussion when I wasn't in the room.
I will take, because I think what I meant in my comments, but I think it was taken away a different way. When I said we will have options, meaning A, B, or C of the splash pad, is what I said. It wasn't the options for the levels of funding around the splash pad and the building, not just we're all in on this $1 million and it's that or nothing. It was options surrounding that plan of dollar amounts.
I mean, we're not committing to anything, to build anything at this point. I mean, ultimately, your board will have the choice to build on based on what it costs and what we're able to get for grant funding and so on and so forth. But
we are spending in excess of 10% of the project costs, and now I'll be honest, for me, which appears to be just me, I'm finding out we're not even pursuing other options. It's splash pad or nothing. Or
fill it in.
You know, the pool we know is not going to be replaced. That's just cost prohibitive. But I don't think we've really done, I mean, maybe I'm missing out, and you feel free, obviously, well, to correct me if we have reached out to the community for other wants and needs other than the splash pad. I know it's important for your water component for the camps, but that's sort of an addendum thing. That's not the primary thing. I think it's really maintaining a resource for the community. We have something there now, it's a memorial pool and the sprinkler. To be honest, we have the sprinkler. And we also have the housing for the bathrooms as well as a potential snack bar, or it is a snack bar. But I don't feel like the skate park is falling apart up there. We're gonna build this, Taj Mahal next to the ruins of the skate park. And I'm not being dismissive of the skate park. I'm just saying it seems like we're awful drilling down on one option when that seems like it should be part of a cohesive plan for that area of Memorial Park. And I must have walked away with that misunderstanding. That was what I was discussing at that meeting. I was there, and that's when we discussed things like, not necessarily a basketball court, because to be honest, I see no reason for a basketball court there.
That's my example.
All right, but, you know, an outreach to the community of what else do they want? That's a fairly targeted use, the splash pad. I'm not negating that that might be it. I just think spending over 10% of the budget with only one option on the table, granted built to different levels, it would escalate the wrong way. In other words, say you came back with 4 options, or 2 options, and one is 400,000 and one's $1 million. The 150,000 now is over 25% of the total cost. So I just, you know, it's gotta work, and if the most expensive cost, which we are being presented with, if I remember correctly, is 950,000 for the construction phase, it's just becoming upside down as far as a concept and the investment prematurely, in my one opinion. So that's my concern, because I honestly did think we were gonna get a feasibility study of several options to pursue. One of them, I know we discussed some of this, because one of them was just doing the bathrooms. One of them obviously was doing nothing. One of them was the bathrooms with the snack bar. And then obviously one of them was the bathrooms, the snack bar, the splash pad. And it just seems like I got, you know, I got lost.
So no, I do recall, if I might, I do recall the conversation with the snack bar. And again, I think I said we bring Little League and the baseball booster clubs into that conversation to see if that's something they would want to partner with us. We're not going to operate a snack bar on our own. If they wanted to put money into the project, and I know from my experiences with them over the last couple of years that they did the Field 5 renovation, they're looking for, I know Little League is looking for a snack bar space up there. So that would be bringing them in, and again, bringing them in on what they need as far as restroom use and them maintaining an MOU with them maintaining that. Now, when you talk about the feasibility study, we basically already did that with the 2020 master plan, where it was recommended by the consultants that we replace the pool with the splash pad there, and that was through the public input sessions that we had and the survey and everything, identifying that as the highest priority. You know, we've done the parking lot, we've allotted money for the restrooms down in Simsbury Meadows if they ever get built, and then the third thing was the splash pad at Memorial Pool, and recognizing that the pool was at the end of its useful life. And they recommended that this is where we put it, based on the infrastructure that was up there. So that's, you know, I think we've done that feasibility study work. I certainly understand your perspective on the 150,000. Again, that's the number the engineering department is, you know, when we were sitting around the table talking about the project, and they reckon, you know, better safe than sorry, let's go for 150, make sure we can do this and get what we need out of it. You know, that's the number. I'm not an expert, that's the number that we thought was best to appropriate at this time. Doesn't mean we'll use it all.
But when you're getting a quote on things such as this, traditionally you put it out to bid, and that's where you get you put out your RFP and you get your quotes. It seems like we're putting a lot of money in it just seems disproportionate to me, because I do commercial projects, to put this much money in on a preliminary site plan, when I've got to imagine that these are cookie cutter type things, the splash pad. Like I said, I'm not against the splash pad, I'm just worried about.
I'm just sorry.
I'm more worried about being pigeon-toed into this. The 150 doesn't make sense to me if we're not getting multiple feasibility studies for that price. If it's going to center on just the one use.
Yeah, I think our project's a little bit different. I mean, if we just had a flat piece of land with a parking lot next to it and said, we want to design a splash pad, you know, put about bids and say, you know, these are the basic, we want 5 elements and 2,500 square feet of surfacing. I think that's your cookie cutter example. Ours is a little bit different. We're tearing out a pool that's, you know, all the mechanicals in there, that big hole, and then renovating the bathhouse. The bathhouse is almost a separate project, but we're trying to kind of pigeonhole it into the same project. If that building was torn down and it wasn't even there, then it'd be great. We could say, okay, we want to build a small bathroom with a splash pad. We're talking about demoing the pool site, demoing the wading pool, the decking and renovating that building to the extent that it's even possible.
We already know that's $45,000 to $60,000. So that's not an unknown. That's a no. That's the quote or the rough estimate. And again, we're on the high side, which we should be. But we know that expenditure is $45,000 to $60,000. So I feel that we can go with the cookie cutter because we know what we need to get to the cookie cutter level, unless I'm missing something between those two. But if I understood it, it was $45,000 to $60,000 to get us to cookie cutter level, which is where my lack of understanding is emanating from.
40,000 to demolish.
Yeah, I don't know where, I'm at a loss where you're getting
Yeah, Steve, I think
45.
we're trying to leverage the piping. So the 45 is to level it, but I think we're trying to leverage the piping and stuff that we already
If
have.
it's possible to.
If it's possible.
So can I, so the 150, we did approve the 150. Like,
Right.
we did, right?
Out of cash.
Well, so that's one of the things that I wanted to bring up tonight was, do we, and I don't know if we formally have to do it, but do we want to make a resolution or recommendation that the Board of Finance go back to our method of funding for the splash pad and use reserves in that we're not tying up $150,000 bonding for a project? My other piece to that, which was after seeing posts, I saw some online posts, and that made me thinking about, there's two sides to this. There are people that want the splash pad, and there are people out there that don't want us spending money when there's a tax increase in a year where growth is constricted on new assets in town, right? And so that got me thinking in that, do we also move the splash pad 950 to the unfunded category for 25, 26, so that it's not a given until we get the results back, and that we are doing the study, we're committing to looking into it and finding it being, if it's feasible or not, what the cost is. And then next year, when we're in the same seat doing our capital budget, we look at that 950 for 25, 26 in comparison to the other $950 million projects that might also be needed next year. Now, I don't know if there's an appetite for that or not, but, and I'm happy to say that tomorrow night at the public hearing, but that's something that I would I think is.
I have a question. So it was my understanding when you spoke on the splash pad that the main benefit of getting this funding is getting the design, because we cannot apply for a grant without having the design.
Yeah, we need a shovel-ready project.
So-
And the design work and feasibility and design work gives us a shovel-ready project.
So we will have that
My hope is
in
we
these
do.
dollars, with these dollars.
Yes.
Then when would you expect to have that, and when those quotes, and when, how long would it take to, you know, like, is there a certain time frame where this grant, does this particular steep grant have a certain deadline date? You know, how does the timing all work in all this?
To answer your first question, the goal is to have this done by New Year's. I mean, ideally, in a perfect world, we have this before we start turning in any projects. You know, when we have the capital project meeting in January, and Mark has to start putting together his budget for your board. That's the goal, is to get this done. I mean, pretty much as soon as that budget, if it's included in the budget, it passes, we start getting our ducks in order to get these meetings done during the summer, talk to people, what do they want, get the building evaluated, keep the project moving up until January, and then have that. Maybe we meet back at the town hall again and give you those options before we decide which one to include in the budget going forward. To your question about the grant, you're catching me off guard with that. I don't know the answer to that right now, but we're also going to pursue the I think we had the answer when we talked about it before. I think we were talking about the cycle, the steep grant cycle. Tom, do you remember? Yeah, I know we talked about it before. It might even be in the one pager I sent out. But we're also going to pursue the congressional earmark funding as well.
Oh, good.
And any other grant opportunities. You know, Google searching grant opportunities for splash pads with the manufacturers, things like that.
It's one of our goals to increase grant revenue.
It is.
So I apologize that I don't know the steep grant funding, but we can possibly get that. You know,
We know the money is
cycle
there.
dates for next year.
I have no concern about that
Yeah.
part, and we need to study in order to be able to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, no, we all agree that that's.
Yeah,
we all
it's a
agree
good
that's-
project. If you look at the steep guidelines, it's a good project for that. And like I said, Farmington got pickleball and splash pad
using steep
I won't
grant.
say anything.
Okay.
So I'm for this, but I don't understand why we would ever put it out as quote-unquote a loan, for lack of calling
Yeah.
it bonding.
Okay.
When hopefully Tom's implying that we're gonna come in under the maximum, right? Did I
So,
read that wrong?
Right.
Under that 150, I hope so.
So if you bonded for it, what implication is that when there's the cost savings? You're paying interest on
Okay.
money you're not using.
So I'm gonna say, do you want to make a motion
I
then
agree with
to-
that.
Do you want to
Also-
make a motion to recommend that the Board of Finance move the funding of the 150 back to cash?
I think that we can do that. I think
Yeah,
that we
I
can
was just-
adjust, no, but I don't think that we need to vote on that even tonight. I think that we can adjust the funding mechanism if we want to.
Well, I think the Board of Finance has to adjust the funding mechanism at this point.
No, we can do that.
Can we do that, Mark?
Yes.
I thought we had to tell the Board of Finance.
You could do it later, but I think there probably would be a benefit of doing it now. Just, why not do it? I tend to agree with you, Wendy. Let me just say, with respect to the unfunded idea, you're going to revisit this next year anyway, as you know, and you're going to be armed with the study. So the main thing is, we've got to get the study approved. I think I'm hearing, we still have strong support to get that 150,000 done. We're hearing that it could be less. Hopefully it will be. And then we're back in front of you anyway. So I think, moving it to unfunded, that's fine with us, as far as I'm concerned. Kind of makes sense. Huh?
Bonding.
The bonding piece, I think in the town manager budget, we had put it in as cash. The Board of Selectmen approved it as cash.
We made it cash.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bonded.
Okay.
We asked for it to be cash. We all voted, and that was something we
But
wanted.
we changed that when
Yes.
there was, okay.
Well, we changed it.
We also voted for that.
We did. We voted for that when we were asked to take the recommendations of the Board of Finance to meet the bonding guidance that they
Right.
had, and they moved it back to bonding, and we did move it forward. So yes, if we had had more time and more discussion, we might have looked at it.
But each
more
one of
closely.
these votes, were unanimous here.
Yeah.
We still have the power on this board to influence the funding source regardless. And I would just respectfully disagree with Mark. I see no value in doing it now. We were unanimous before. I think that we can be unanimous in the discussion with the Board of Finance later. They'll make whatever adjustments that they want to if they need to. But I also think that it's fair to say that we came in well within guidance for the Board of Finance. For the adjustments to happen on this one project versus all the other things there too, I think unfairly pits these projects against one another. So I'm happy to continue having the discussion here about the appropriate use. I don't think that it's wrong at all, Stephen, to be asking Tom and the team there to ask the contractor to work with us on some design options and plans if it stays within scope. I'm sure that they'll say that the more options they give us, the higher the cost will be on this, though. So we're going to be respectful and responsible with that. But I think having more options is not a bad idea. But that can all be done as part of the administration and management of the project. Once we get through budget and the appropriation cycle and everything else, I see that all this stuff can continue to be iterative, and we will still have influence in that entire process, and we can get updates from Mark and his team, as we need it, and continue to work on the whole outset of the project. The reason why this frustrates me is because I looked at this personally, being skeptical at first from a fiscally conservative lens. We know that there's a problem with the pool, and money and water is being wasted up there. Something needs to be done. Money is not going to be cheaper later to be able to address it. So if we're looking at what are we going to do about it, destroy it, repair it, or replace it, we have an opportunity for a project, and this study will help us to see whether or not a splash pad that would have lower staffing costs, still keep a water feature for the camp, all the things that we've been sold on, it sort of seems like it makes sense to me, and that's why I'm looking forward to getting the study to tell us maybe if we're wrong. I think that it will be good money spent because we still have to do something with that site because the pool just can't stay in its current state. I also think that it's unfortunate, even though this town has lots of ways that we honor veterans, for it to be called War Memorial Pool, to have it in that condition. And I think that something should be done about that.
Well, thank you. And we all agreed to the plan. So I'm still, as long as, unless someone wants to make a motion to use cash for the pool and recommend that to the Board of Finance, it will stay in bonding for the Board of Finance unless they decide to do that themselves. Right? So, that's all I'm saying. So, I mean, I'm fine. You know, Mark originally presented a resolution that we could send to them to say to do that, whether it's necessary or not, I don't know.
I thought we sent it to them as cash. Then it got moved back.
It got moved back by us, by our finance department, moved it to bonding.
Oh, back to London, okay.
Before,
I thought it got
and we
moved
sent that along.
You might not have been at that meeting, I
And
can't
then because
recall.
the conversation.
I don't think she was.
Oh, yeah, you weren't there.
Heather was not at the meeting.
Oh, okay. I did watch it though.
Well, and I also, my other thinking was, again, with the cash, I think it makes it easier for the Board of, from what I heard, the Board of Finance, seeing that we were bonding for it, with the bonding for the project, they were discussing that it's all tied together.
Well, I thought in addition, it came down to, at the Board of Finance meeting, when this pool came up, they were looking tomorrow to go back and see what we have to show for year-end savings. So
Right.
with that, why would they not use cash if that's
Right.
Okay,
cash coming
okay.
in, that's extra?
Okay, so then basically you're saying we don't need to do any action, and we can speak to it tomorrow night if it comes up. We did, spoke to it at the last meeting, but there's nothing telling them to do that, and I guess, you know, if.
I mean, they can move the shells around as much as they want, but I think that at the end of the day, it's whether or not the project is going to happen or not.
Well, this
All the rest
part of the project.
All the rest is cash management, right?
This-
It's
but-
you know, bond
so-
or reserve.
But we're only talking about this part of the project. So if they can move the money around for this part of the project, and that's what they want to do tomorrow, then if that's where we stand today, that's fine. But I just don't think bonding for an evaluation.
I don't think that makes sense.
I don't either, but I would say, to Heather's point, as I think back on the board, and I don't want to speak for our colleagues on the other side, but I think this really comes down to the finance director's presentation to the Board of Finance about anticipated cash reserves and the concern that a couple members, particularly the chair, had about us using cash reserves to fund things. And I think I said that if the reserves were expected to be some amount higher than they were predicted to be at that time. And so we were able, I think, together to convince the Board of Finance to defer a decision, but it does imply that they would switch it to cash.
Do you think quarterlies come in?
I think that, you know, I don't want to speak for Amy, but I'm pretty confident that she's going to give them a quick update. And, I haven't heard anything to the contrary, so.
Tom's nodding his head.
Yeah, Tom's nodding his head. Yeah.
So
So
then
again-
it could be something that's brought up tomorrow
Yeah.
during the Board of Finance meeting, once we hear the quarterlies and we feel more comfortable asking it to be moved back to reserve, we could do that so at the time.
That's fine.
Well, I just have a quick question for Tom, because, you know, is there a difference between using anticipated year-end savings and doing it immediately? Or this would probably be a tighter question, because if it's approved in the budget, you can't do it till July 1.
Well, we could start getting,
I mean, that's not that
Yeah,
far.
we don't have to make a payment till after July 1. Once that budget's approved, we could start getting the ducks in a row as far as trying to find, identify
Yeah.
that, through an RFQ, who that person's gonna be, who we're gonna be working with.
Yeah.
The problem with using year-end funds is we'd have to wait till October to get those funds approved. And then we're not, our timeline's 6 months behind at that point, and then we start falling behind.
Well, I think the Board of Finance could encumber them now, prior to October, but I don't want to get out in front of the Board of Finance, but I appreciate the answer. I don't think we need to do
Yeah,
anything.
and I was gonna say, your year-end savings is probably not the optimal. I think it's better to have it budgeted.
I mean,
Personally.
yeah. I mean, from what my understanding is, you could also, you could leave it as bonding, and you could just choose in June to use any other date to use
Okay.
reserves to pay that off.
That's fine. I was trying to, again, I won't say it again. I'm not gonna repeat it. Okay, we're gonna move on. Anybody have comments on the minutes?
Thanks, Phil.
Any changes to the minutes? Oh, we should have done a motion, Kevin.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the minutes as presented, say aye. Aye.
Move it to bonding.
What?
Sorry.
Now we're sidebar.
Suggested moving them.
I heard that.
I also, before we just end, I want to say the letter from the POCD, Curtis has stepped up to be the representative on that commission. And Kevin, I think you stepped up to be the 250th person. Did you?
Happy to serve.
Okay, okay, so we have volunteers for that. And with that, I'm going to ask for a motion.
We need to do
Before
anything
we
about.
do, I had a clarifying question on updates for the Housing Policy Advisory Committee appointees from the relevant boards.
If
and
we have
commissions.
any updates?
Are there any other new ones? Do we have, balanced representation?
That's a great question, because I'm still questioning that. I had assumed that we had asked for a member and then an alternate potential, so that whoever they assigned, we would have minority representation. That was not necessarily how it was interpreted.
Sure.
So we're still looking into that.
Okay, that's fine
Okay,
with me.
because I have that same question.
No, it's fine, and I
It's a
appreciate you looking at it.
Good question. Okay, so now can I?
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. Somebody, I'll second it. I can second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Are you Steelers here?
No, well, I went to Pittsburgh.
Too late.
Oh, so wait, did you, you all know
I get
that
this
we
t-shirts
may meet
delivered
later this
once a
week
month.
for the referendum and
Yeah, so
the mailer? But you
I don't know
won't
if
get
I
to
can
be,
make it.
but you won't get to be the chair next week.
Right.
If we have it this week.
They put out Thursday or Friday, and Steve said.
Heather, our assessor's got an envelope for you, but I didn't bring it over.
Oh,
We actually-
do it in advance.
My schedule is
Thank you.
You're that
Perfect, I'll be there tomorrow.
Fine.
Personnel
I
is,
know if it's gonna be
our
Friday, I do
personnel
have to
meeting
move an
prior
appointment if we're gonna do
is
it after 9:30, which is fine, I just wanted to see
Or-
appointment.
I just have regular work meetings.
Yes,
I can
it's
do this,
4.
So I just need.
We only need 4
Oh, that's
people,
not me,
but,
that's what's not on my
yeah,
calendar.
they
I mean, it's
interviewed.
really,
That's right, I
I'll
forgot.
make it work, so I just wanted
That's,
to.
yeah, Friday,
Earlier, I
And
can
when's
know.
budget?
So how long is the meeting gonna be like?
5:45.
well, as long as, if everybody,
How many?
That's at the library?
Library.
as long as you do all your homework, it will be quick.
All right,
Is there any
I
way,
can do
I
either.
know we're busy about this stuff,
I don't want a picture of that.
to
I'm
get,
gonna post it on the,
any
With the duck.
grants?
On Tuesday, what's
any,
Tuesday?
Kevin with his dog.
Oh, tomorrow, Tuesday, I think you meant next week, Tuesday.
Before.
Oh, yeah,
and
I'll be
after.
there.
Just like,
Oh, yeah.
I'll be there.
this is potential and,
Yeah, I'll make it bigger.
One more bread, and one you didn't
Oh, yeah.
want.
That's so funny.
Studies have you done since last?
I could make it, yeah.
On what?
We'll answer that question.
Thursday or Friday? Thursday's better. 'cause
Friday, you said you can't do it till after 9:40.
Thursday.